Hi, Joe. How are you?
I'm here.
Yeah, I figured
All
I'd
right.
pop on. I knew you would be here tonight because you're always here on Wednesdays. So I thought, well, I'll pop on.
Yeah. Well, I haven't quite figured out the schedule. I'm glad that you. Well, I'm glad I'm familiar with the weekly meeting here, but I'm not seeing it on the website yet. It's just to confirm when people meet here. Trying to see here. What brings you here?
I knew you'd be here and we need to talk about the ombudsman thing.
Okay. All right. Let's do that then.
Okay. I've read over, but what you sent me was from Ireland and Britain. And I don't know, the Britain kind of,
That's fine. Yep. That's it's the entire industry worldwide is the same everywhere. Any accolades that they may have on certain other countries, they're just adding their own extra flair. But if you wanted to just kind of, you know, learn where, well, what details are you talking about here? Let's see. I got them right here.
well, I know that Justin said we had to have an SOP, but I felt like, the standard operation procedures or what have you.
Uh-huh.
Um, but I didn't think Anna said we had to have that. And I don't necessarily mind it. I
Well,
just,
no, it's what's lost in translation are other people's emphasis on questions as they come in. A standard operating procedure is an organization-wide must-have. It's maybe not called a standard operating procedure. It might be called best practices procedure or desk procedures. It's just who asked the question at a certain time when the moon and everything is lined just right for the answer to come back. We don't need that, you know. No, we do need operations manual. We absolutely do need that.
okay.
Is it called an SOP? Maybe not. There's other there's other titles of that, the operations manual. It doesn't have to be SOP. It's just again that was asked by Cynthia Pinkston on North Carolina, and she kind of has a tendency to kind of be not as multidimensional in her questions or whatever. You know, it's just again it just happens. Yes, we do need an SOP. We need an
Okay.
operations manual. Absolutely. Any
So is that
organizations,
something I have to come up with, or can I just pull it from what you gave me?
yeah, you can build your own. Yeah.
Okay.
Mhm. It's as simple as you would hope for it to be. You had somebody is encouraging or promoting a sector, a service, and you say, "Well, I think I can handle that. I think I can manage that. Do you have anything to give me, kind of like guidelines?" Well, sure. Here you go. And they give you guidelines, and you open it up, and they walk away. You say, yeah, I think I can do this. Step one, step two, step three, step four. I can do that. You know, where you see the steps and then you close the manual. It's in arm's length. It's at arm's length, and then you manage your day around that manual. And then if you need to refer back to it, you know open it up again, and just before you know it, you put it away because you know it like the back of your hand. So that's without that, we are winging it, completely winging it, and that's not satisfactory.
I can understand that. I just think that when you come up with a policy and procedure in a certain way, I feel like it kind of rules out the spirit, but that's okay.
Well, but if 10 people were to ask you, well, they can ask anybody who's, facilitating those services, where is that written? Whatever is conveyed, it can be conveyed in the most pristine manner. They may, or anything less than that. Someone ask, well, is that where can I refer to these procedures? And if 10 out of 10 ask, and the one being asked 10 out of 10 times would say, I just kind of made it up. That's not
Yeah.
so. That is not responsible. No way. I would not be caught having to say that. It needs to be a reference. Something needs to be cited.
Right. So there's like equality across the board so that they can't say one's favored and one's not, or
All
is
right.
that what you're
Yeah,
okay?
exactly. Yeah. It's not responsible. It's not responsible to just claim, you know, I commandeer this entire service and it is myself. That is just not fiscally responsible
Right.
in any
Right.
anyway. So it has to be written down. Yeah. Okay, so where we're at as far as I'm looking through what I got here, looking through this file here. So what we have are um, world recognized outlines. They're not necessarily procedures. They're not standardized procedures, but they are. You can retrieve them and they're decipherable. And anyway, what are your questions? What are your questions? I guess probably where we should go.
Well, I mean, you answered one of them, and that was that I needed to come up with an SOP from the information you've given me. And I guess I need to call an ombudsman meeting because Belinda's on, Nick's on, I'm on. Who was the other person? Bob's on. So we got four of us on the ombudsman committee. So, I mean, I don't want to be ruling the whole show. I would like input from others on what they would
Yeah.
like to see happen. Thankfully, we're
Well, which
not
one of
needing an
these?
ombudsman right now.
Well, which one of these framework presentations did stand out, stood out for you? I have one on. I'm getting ready to share screen here.
Okay,
Just pick one. Let me know when you can see it.
I see it.
Okay, is this any of the ones that you have?
Yes.
Okay, so just really choose one. This is the more thorough, I would say. Let's see here. 10 pages. 10 pages. Start somewhere, okay? And by the way, the Ombudsman Association, it's pretty thorough, you know. I think they've won certain awards, um, providing
I sent you the link
provi-
if you want to go in. Sorry.
providing yeah, providing examples of how the Ombudsman service works. And here they have a 10-page, if you want to call a pamphlet or brochure, covering what, 4 points, and everything is in there. There's not a lot of moving parts with the Ombudsman service, as I mentioned before. It's very doable, and definitely less is more with regards to Ombudsman service. So I would take this, maybe shuffle it forward in your material and just build off of it. Just rely upon it, let's say. And then you can kind of move forward with that. You got to just kind of throw yourself into where you're at and just, rely upon your material. If you didn't have material, then absolutely you'd be walking through in the dark, not having any trajectory. So,
Well, I know I had to go to the ombudsman about our CPS worker, and I felt like they did nothing. But, that's
mm,
de facto. It's not us. So,
yeah, well, was with your physical experience that you can prove as factual to yourself, bounce that experience off of what you see within these materials and see where they fell short. And then you can actually explain or describe your own experience with what is written as a standard. I mean, this 110-page pamphlet, I would say, it's not even an SOP, it's just a pamphlet, a proposal. I mean, it has everything I would be comfortable with building on as far as ombudsman service goes.
So the night that I raised my hand to be ombudsman and I took, because this isn't looking familiar to me. The one I had was like the British and Irish, and it was, I don't know, 56 pages or it was something long. I'm probably saying the wrong amount, but it
Really?
was long.
56 pages, then more the better. In my view, the more the better, because I just can use that more. But also less is more for me as well. I can go with both paradigms. So I'll send this to you if you don't have it. And this
Okay,
is the
that would.
yeah, this is this is a 2017 pamphlet. I'll send it to you if I can. Should be able to. You want to screen share what you have? How about that?
I can try. I haven't screen shared before. That's part of why I haven't done meetings. I was going to get on the
Well, go
General
ahead and
Assembly meeting and see if Ashley would work with me on some of my
well,
technical skills.
go ahead and practice with that. If you're on a computer
I'm
and
not
you
on a
have your
computer. I'm on my cell phone, but it
yeah,
does have a share button down here.
yeah, well, my experience has been even with a Z-Fold, a $2,000 device, I cannot through Zoom screen share through Zoom. Other platforms I can. So that's good to know. So if you have a device like me, you can't, but through Zoom, probably not able. Maybe you can try it. Maybe it's a setting on my end that I can't screen share on my device, my mobile device. Let me see if I
Yeah,
can.
unsupported document, please select an image or PDF document. And it was a PDF. That's what it's telling me anyway, when I tried. But you had sent me what I had, or you had put it in chat.
Okay, well, send me any. Here's the best thing to do. With what you have on your device, what you reviewed, send that back to me in an email with all the questions that you have. Okay. Because I want to set
Okay.
you up. I want to set you up for success, even if it's just a 5 or 10 minute presentation illustrating that success with the ombudsman. And believe me, it'll go a long way. 5 or 10 minutes, 5 minutes based on what you have that you've read. Send that back to me so that I can see what you have. And then with the questions that you have, I'll try to answer those questions. Okay, so now you have the answers that I've been able to provide to your questions and based on the material that you've sent me. Okay. And I can only substantiate this because I have worked with probably the best ombudsman service. I don't have anything to compare it with that I know directly, but with the medical command in the Army and the United States Army, I was godsmacked. I mean, they're so silky smooth and proficient. They had zero complaints. It was a pleasure working with the Ombudsman Service and the Warrior Transition Battalion at Fort Knox, dealing with medically retiring soldiers. I don't know what their materials were. I don't have. I wish to have. I'm still trying to find exactly their procedures manuals that they utilized, but I'm pretty confident that what they used is the same that's used worldwide. Predominantly, the inner workings of the Ombudsman Service that I worked with for 720 days. It's the same across the board because again, it's not a lot of moving parts. It's just then it just then dwindles down to talent, environment, and reporting, and approachability, what have you. But
So typically somebody comes to the ombudsman because they're dissatisfied with the service they're getting from, like, I came because I was dissatisfied with CPS service. And really they just didn't do anything about it. They said that they were checking into it. But see, I'm about ready to contact them again because we're at 2 months at on the 27th of May. It'll be 2 months since we've had any visitation with our daughter. Um,
yeah,
so I mean,
you can use that as an example. You'll have to use your imagination a bit. Um, I don't know if you're providing any kind of service, um, facilitating arbitration service. Probably not. But you just so use your imagination. You're providing a service, a child protective type service, and they're not treating you well, and so then you would appeal to your ombudsman service, uh, um, addressing your grievances about that service. That's a really great top. That's a great aiming point. I like that. I like that. You can just, use your imagination with that. Say the assemblies has a child protective type service, you know, reverse engineer or manufacture a service just like what you've dealt with, but now add it to your benefit as if the assemblies had a service like that. And
Gotcha.
then yeah, and then work with that. And then with the material, which is an industry standard, even though it's from Ireland, it doesn't matter. It could be from South Africa, it could be from Uganda, it could be from Australia, New Zealand, you know, the standard will be the same, ideally.
I don't mind the Ireland part. My
Yeah.
maiden name is Murphy.
All right. So there you
So
go.
my great grandparents came over here from Ireland, and I still have like furniture from the 1800s. I have a chiffrobe, that has the closet attached to it and all that from my
Uh-oh.
grandparents. So
All
I don't
right.
actually mind that. I like the Irish people. I am an Irish people. I
You
just,
probably have you probably have some McGregors in your family too as well.
I might.
Hey,
I know I have McWilliams. I know we're prominently Irish until I had
okay.
my kids.
Okay. Well,
What are you?
just
You're Irish too, aren't you?
I'm Irish. I'm German Irish. So
Yeah,
I'm
I'm Irish German.
yeah. Okay. All right. So let's go with that. Take the path of least resistance. You have material in your hands that is of an Irish uh, ombudsman service. Run with it. Run with it. Run headlong with it. Okay, it's not going to deviate. There's nothing going to be foreign at all with the American version of the Ombudsman Service. The Ombudsman Association or any other association, I'm sure they met that standard worldwide. It is, if I was available, I would be so honored to be able to just provide that to and add my own unique appeal, you know, to the Ombudsman Service and then learning. It's not 27 main topics with 19 to 25 subtopics with every one of those main topics. It is very lean, very identifiable with all of the small parts. And again, I'm not screen sharing now, but at least what I was screen sharing the Ombudsman Service with the contents. You say you don't have this. Four main points, introduction, scope, terms of service, Ombudsman Association, member commitments, which is accessibility, communication, professionalism, fairness, and transparency. That right there is an industry standard. And then meeting these service standards. I'll again email me what you have. I'll email you back with your answers to your questions if you have. I'll also email you any additions, which this 10-page pamphlet I can share that with you as well. And again, just throw something together that appeals to your intention and watch the GA. They'll be like, wow, that was really cool. You might say, well, I just kind of threw that together in the past 6 hours. That's all. They're like, they won't know the difference because intent is, it intent goes before anything else, and so the people who are sincere will sincerely appreciate your report. Guaranteed. Anything less than that is empty-handed, and that is a definitely motivation stealer. And I don't have anything to report. Wow, come on, really? And these people are already trying to justify their own absence, and that's difficult to do, the people in the assembly. I mean, I empathize with everybody's situation, but the smallest amount, like I mentioned before, the smallest amount of incremental 30-minute build here, build there, whenever you can find it, know that it goes the distance. Just know that it definitely goes the distance.
Well, I would have to be more proficient, and I look for our ombudsman. I can't hardly talk to be more proficient than theirs because I think theirs kind of cowers down. Like they didn't do anything in our situation, they still haven't.
Yeah, well, just use that as a basis of comparison, I would say. And just, we're not there to say, shame on you. Just, I mean, later maybe, but for sure, lead by example. And physical people that you see in that service, once they get around to seeing how substandard and disappointing they were, they may just decide to retire, quit. And I always want to assume the best out of anyone. Even themselves may not realize where they are. Some people, most people, I would say, just take the jobs that they're available to them, and they have no other aiming point but just to survive, and that's pretty sad. But I wouldn't blame any one particular anybody. The world we live in right now, it is a whirlwind, you know. But I mean, you get the opportunity, and you're on the receiving end of an ombudsman service. You mentioned there's an ombudsman service through CPS, and they are so defunct. Well, I mean, would you expect anything less from a service that was foisted upon you? It's kind of par for the course, I would say. But now you have the opportunity, you say, that to actually take on the role of ombuds for your assembly, which is ironic in a way.
Well, I think our assembly could do something. I mean, the whole point of an ombudsman is to bring peace in between the service provider and the client, correct? I mean, that's basically what I'm understanding, is that they're peacekeepers, kind of like you with your peacekeeping task force. They're trying to level out the battleground between the service and the servicee, I guess.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, they deal with internal conflicts. But if you're using CPS and your experience with them and using their conflict resolution service as a gauge as what to expect, just there's no other way to really convince you that you're receiving just substandard service until you strive to illustrate yourself what a substandard service. But now you're attempting to learn it and then provide that contrast, and that seems odd, I would say. So
Well,
yeah,
I
I
just
get it.
believe our
Totally.
ombudsman can be better. We don't have all these stupid statutes that they have to deal with. Like we're
There's no statutes.
already more honestly authentic.
Well, there are no statutes. Don't think that. Yeah, don't envision at multi axles here or anything. Like I say, the ombudsman service as an industry standard spanning centuries is very, very low profile. It's very doable. But I'm describing to you the abstract. Go into the materials that you have and just kind of absorb it. Take it for what it is and absorb it. It's very simple. The environment you're in would be behind closed doors in a kind of a posh setting, ferns, if you will, lower light, warm light, ambient light, dark leather seats that kind of melt into, you don't want to get out of after 30 minutes because you're just so comfortable. Perfect temperature, books in the background, interesting pictures, you on the other side of a nice oak polished table, just very accommodating, very comfortable, and approachable someone on the other end. They close the door and you're there to receive uh, the the interest and the focus of someone across across the desk that will help further your concern, that will take in your concerns and then do something about it. I guess the best way to say it, in a professional manner that shields you from your concerns and exposes your concerns to the appropriate, um, in our world, the appropriate pillars or committees. That is exactly how you kind of have to take what you see and then mold it into what you're familiar regarding the assembly. It's really that simple. But if it takes 19 more times to illustrate that, then so be
I hope it doesn't take 19 more times.
it. No, that's just I've learned it in marketing. That's kind of like a sweet spot, half a dozen or more times before of reiterating the exact same message. It's kind of that thing. I don't know. All right, so enough of that. enough of sensationalism. If you have point, talk. If you got one or two, maybe right now, I don't want to take. We're 30 minutes into this sidebar here, but if you have any specific questions about what you've seen, whether it's Irish, American, English, whatever, lay it on me. And I'm not a subject matter expert. Well, I am an expert. I've been exposed to, I have experience. I'm not a professional, but I am an expert. 2 years working side by side with medical commands, ombudsman service paints me in a picture of somewhat of an expert, I would say.
I would too. You're experienced for sure. Um, I'd rather do it and come back in 2 weeks when Todd's not on the call, just so I have time to review it again because I haven't read it since this past weekend.
Mhm.
I've been working on General Assembly stuff and litigation stuff. Oh my gosh. I know why God picked me to be the litigation chair. I feel like I'm sending out paperwork constantly, just trying to get
Yeah,
our daughter back. I mean,
yeah, yeah. Well,
I
see,
mean,
that's those are the details about how the assembly is ran thin, and it's we just we're in that quandary of what do we need to do and what can we do and what else might we be able to do. And there's just that middle deficiency that the assembly experiences where we have to do what we have to do. Our family takes center stage. We have to do what we have to do. We want to do more. We strive to do more, but there's just not enough. Nature does not provide any more hours in a day. And then on top of doing what we need to survive. Well, the deficiency is our reports. So that's why I say, and I can attest to this 100%. There is definitely through 7 days, 7 days is a measure. I can definitely say I can identify 30 minutes right here, and I'll just push everything that I might want to do or think I need to do, and I will dedicate 30 minutes to something that's measurable, something that I can, even if that 30 minutes provides 4 minutes of reporting, ultimately, you know, man, I wanted to get more done. 30 minutes is what I did, and I got 2 sentences here. Well, that has 2 sentences, 30 minutes for 2 sentences. And how long does it take to read 2 sentences? 2 minutes, usually. Okay, but that is a report. That's what the assemblies are hoping for. That's what they're expecting at the very least, is somebody having dedicated however much time to reading 2 sentences, 4 sentences, 8 sentences, which is 2 paragraphs, and before you know it, something that they did not know before has been presented to them in 3 to 5 minutes, maybe more, a little bit more. And it's something that there were even the recording has captured, which is significant uh, for the public record to establish that our assembly is working towards our assembly over the course of 12 months, which substantiates a significant need to qualify for ex parte Milligan. Some people don't realize that. The assemblies are in session, yes. Are they reporting? Do they have a scheduled agenda? Yes. Do they have a scheduled meeting time? Yes. Do they provide content more or less? Yes. Or no. But do they meet? Yes. But are they providing some incremental reports that is profoundly different 12 months from their first meeting? Yes. If 12 months goes through, all of the meetings can be confirmed, all of the meeting minutes are there, approved, accurate or not, but approved on the record still. Audio, video, which is above and beyond. But with all that said, anybody and everybody who's a part of a committee who's working on something for 30 minutes here and there throughout 7 days, that is all that's I guess that's the sweet spot, Laura. I'm not trying to sell you on too much of the idea here, but you can probably say, you know what, 30 minutes, 30 minutes this day, two days later, 30 or 40 minutes with that day and something done, something annotated, something that is reportable. That's the short and skinny of it all. And again, that is with having first doing what needs to be done always first. So what comes second or maybe third, carving out those 30 minutes. Guarantee you that goes so far.
Well, today I've been working on a what would you call it? A complaint, a psychological complaint due to fraud because our evaluation. So we had to go to the Kentucky Board of Psychology, and we go to the mail, to register it. The lady was not happy at all. You mean to tell me I have to put all these stamps on here? What do you mean meter mail is fraud? And I'm like, I don't know. For you, it's not. But for me, I'm an ASN and I need to do this registered mail with stamps. But by the time we walked out, and we explained a little bit of our story. We said, hey, our daughter has CF. CPS isn't wanting to give her back. They get like $30,000 a day because she has cystic fibrosis. By the end of our going out of that post office, she was blessing us and wasn't frustrated so much anymore because we explained the process. They wanted to see our ID, my credential card. So we did turn that around pretty good, and I felt good about that. Um, but now I'm doing notices of default judgment because I go to Christy Leeper's litigation meetings and
Yeah,
the
that's the
secretary.
nationwide meeting, right?
Yes, and the Secretary of State sent all my paperwork back. So she told me to have a true bill for us to go over in class on Thursday towards the Secretary of State. Which I mean, my focus has been taking down CPS because they're the ones that keep lying on us. Um,
Yeah, what a
so
wretched service. Totally wretched. It's like a nightmare.
it is like a nightmare. I mean, and if they told the truth, we would go in, but it's not even true. So I don't know how to do it. You know what I mean? I can't live a lie for them.
Yeah. Well, I'm not gonna try to tend to know anything that you're going through. And that is so, I mean, you're the hero, you and Bob together are the hero in this as far as Kentucky's concerned, because, you know, with no basis of comparison, we're kind of in the dark with just what our opinion about CPS, but no one, I don't know anybody who favors that service. But at the same time, someone could argue a service like that could be needed. And I mentioned that to you months ago. You know,
Right.
you're in that unique position, you and Bob both of working together, where you can reverse engineer that service and make it something very admirable, as a volunteer service, the American way. So I mean, and I'm a bit envious, but more optimistic on what you're able to bring forward.
Well, I do think that there need, I mean, because I worked in schools before this and we did have to call CPS for, I mean, especially, like we had a little girl with a foot fungus and the parents wouldn't do anything and her toes started turning purple. I mean, we were putting her in a bleach bath for her feet at school. But I did work with special needs. She was autistic. So, but her parents, they were kind of ignorant. I don't think they knew how to address her needs. And so I think that they really did actually help them with that child. Of course, this was probably 15, 20 years ago.
Yeah.
Um,
And I think foot fungus is pretty hard to get rid of anyway,
yeah,
right?
but when your toes start turning purple and black, something has to be done. I
Right.
mean, and they weren't even taking her to the doctor. They were trying to do it at home, which don't get me wrong. I'm not a big doctor fan myself. I am a home remedy person, but
Yeah.
you don't want a child to lose a foot, especially at like 8, 9 years old. I mean, and that's when your foot starts turning black and purple, something's got to be done.
Well, now you can know CPS is definitely the last resort service. Maybe in a different world, offspring protective services. Remember, we tried to kind of reword
Right.
that because they're not wards of the state. They're not children. They have a gender. Offspring is much better and much more. I mean, it's still gender neutral, but it makes better sense.
Right. Which we would eventually need that service as an assembly,
Yeah,
I do believe.
I would say so. Yeah, and that's how the establishment I think gets away with it because I mean I don't know if this is some kind of supernatural spell binding. Um, skill that they have, craft that they have, where they take services that are reasonable and then pervert them to no end.
Right.
Don't know. I don't know how. I mean, I don't know how any other way. Every service that they offer, every service that is admirable on the surface, but then they have received overwhelming complaints, like that demands investigation to the point of halting their service, completely halting their service, suspending anything that they have anything to do with, and then placing them on the international carpet for their claims, for the claims against them. And if they're not true, this should be easy to, it should be easy to dispel if they're not true.
Well, I mean, our report literally says Bob hit Sarah when she's trying to hug him. And Bob didn't ever hit Sarah. Matter of fact, he didn't really hit my boys. One of my boys beat them up and he went to jail. And then CPS cited my husband saying that, he was involved in domestic violence. And my husband's like, he got all beat up, you know? So it just was like a flip. And it's for a financial stake. That's the thing that makes me dislike money so much. It is an honorable service, but it gets distorted with that love of money being the root of all evil. I mean, why would they? When they took our kids, Bob was drawing $2,700 a month on Social Security, so they got to yank that. Then all three of my kids are special needs, because my boys they diagnosed with PTSD from the abuse from their dad. So all of them had met that criteria of getting, the extra money for having medical problems. So, I mean, they've just been sitting there making bankroll. And Hardin County is in trouble already, has been being investigated for 17 years because they keep pulling people and have this financial stake. And I think if we didn't have Bill Clinton's protection and permanency law, that CPS would not be near as corrupt. Like before 1997, if you look at CPS cases, they weren't anything like they are today. They were the really drastic kids had to be removed from those homes kind of things. And now they just do it for whatever.
Yeah. Well, like I say, that I mean, there's nobody that I could say that I know of that has a more vested interest than yourself and Bob. As if to say, you know what, folks, we have enough experience in this with this service to the point where we have such disdain for it, but at the same time, we can show evidences and illustrations how we can vouch for it, and that the assemblies could consider, a reworking of this service if in times of need. And here is the proposal. I mean, what better way to put it in CPS face? Like, you know what, you guys missed the boat and you're done. When the people of families that are in need of services like this see this compared to your services, you guys are done, completely done forever. I mean, I'm just trying to point out some significant positive movements, because as far as getting child protective services in your case to adhere to your demands, I'd have no experience in how to remedy that, other than storming that facility and demanding the files that lead you back to your loved ones. That's not that's not an option at this point.
We have a dog in our yard. So I was trying to speak, but all my dogs we have 4 dogs.
That's
They're
fine.
not happy with the dog.
See, you got your email in here in the chat.
Yes, because you said you were going to send me something. So I wanted you to have it right there.
No, I wanted you to send me what you have,
Okay.
and along with questions that you have, because I want to be able to try to set you up for success for whatever reports that you can provide. As far
So
as ombudsman. Wherever you are, whatever you think might be something, believe me, it'll go so much further.
Well, I would like to have a meeting, not next Wednesday, because I know Todd will be on, but the following Wednesday, maybe an ombudsman meeting for Belinda and Nick and me and Bob with, if you would come to that and help us all. Um, I can come up with questions and hopefully they can just hear it because they want to be on the ombudsman committee.
Okay, well, even if I wasn't able to attend, and with this recording, you probably can't get to it easily. You have to request it, but what you can recall, and with what you send me, and I send you back via email, um, and your vision. How about that? Your vision. You don't have to learn to digest what you have as brochures. Just your vision of how CPS can be done and shine like a diamond. And use your experience, turn that frown upside down as best you can. Okay. And then attempt to build a proposal, an appeal or proposal, pitch that proposal to the General Assembly and add that as your proposal. Just right off the cuff, right off the beginning. Or if you meet with the committee without me, I'm so torn. I can hardly find that 30 minutes I'm describing to you. I'm still able to eke them out here and there, but it's usually during my work hours. But I'll try. Or
Okay.
send me the recordings, and I'll just, there's only so much. If I didn't have to work, this is obvious. If I didn't have to work, I can redirect those hours that I do work and devote most of that behind the computer at home in office setting, behind with attending meetings and drafting reports and all this good stuff. But just like you or Bob or anybody, we can always say we have to do what we got to do to survive. And that's
Right.
no
And
one's
see,
hiring us. No one's hiring us to retire from our proverbial day jobs right just yet. So
well, we're kind of blessed and Bob is retired and I am disabled. Um, but we've had to do door dashing and that kind of stuff. Like before all this started, we had two houses, a truck, an RV. We've just CPS has just mishandled my case so bad, going against their own orders. Like we sold our house and paid for a whole year of a townhome for my son because they let him move in with the abuser when he was 18. And, he got there and realized, hey, this isn't what I want. He's beating up his girlfriend. There's meth in the house. I mean, he told him it was Allegra, but it was Viagra. So my son was like, I got to get out of here. So out of the goodness of our hearts, we paid for a whole year renting, which was dumb because he could have just went back to the daggone house because we had to. But at the same time, it's still because of CPS's negligence. It was against their own orders to let them see their biological dad or their own recommendations. I'm sorry, CPS doesn't give orders. Um, and then they turned around and did it. So, and every time, I mean, and that was in the very beginning. They gave
okay,
all my kids to a 24-year-old.
so Laura, like I say, if I was interested in that service, I would also be interested in learning more about what substandard services they offer before even considering that service. How would somebody sell a service like that in need, as emergency need? How would somebody sell that service who doesn't need that service? Well, what better way to, in light of that, what better way to pitch a service to someone who may need it or who can refer that service to others than to contrast what services are offered? And you have that bona fide experience. So in other words, instead of maydaying those services which falls on unfamiliar ears, add that to your pitch to the assemblies to show this is what the services, how shoddy and disappointing they are, and then offer a remedy for that service parallel to that.
Yeah, Bob said investigation. That would be because they didn't talk to us. They talked to the youth pastor and my kids, who the youth pastor had let go see their biological dad, and their biological dad's telling them I'm crazy. So then my two boys are telling them, and my daughter's just all mixed up. So yeah, and then the foster care. So we had a person, a friend that I've known since I was 7. Her grandparents still live across the street. She was going to take my daughter in 2022. Well, CPS came in and said she didn't know him well enough because she lives in Simpsonville. We only see her once a year. But then they turned around and sent my daughter to complete strangers that she'd never met. And this girl was there the day my baby was born and held her. So
Okay,
don't tell
right,
me that.
right, Laura, I hope you can catch what I'm saying here. I have no basis of comparison except for terribly pain to hear these things. Can you see? Can you kind of empathize where I'm at? And yes, if I had something to share with you, believe me, we would be coffee clatching back and forth and leaning on each other in that way. I cannot, at least as far as I'm just providing you my observation, I cannot relate to this. So I have nothing to return right now except an interest on Laura. Can you turn this around? Do you have ideas how to turn this? You see what I mean? I don't
Right,
want
I
your
do.
I don't want
Making
your
a
genuine
negative a positive.
I don't want your genuine stories to go into a vacuum because I'm sitting here like I'm totally empty-handed here. I don't know what to say. And it's traumatic to hear these things. So I'm at trying to cultivate your raw experience to where you can have an audience that is intrigued instead of, distraught to hear these things. And they honestly, they probably want to vacate even the conversation because they just don't want to hear any more trauma because it's just too traumatic. You see what I mean? Like
Right.
there is a way to remedy this but use them as an example and then quickly move into the solution. And yes, you're pitching that solution to those who are also empty-handed as far as funding goes, but they can definitely get behind and support your version of how to counterbalance those traumas that you've dealt with. Just you know, I hope that makes better sense.
It does. I'm pretty resilient though, and my daughter is too. So
Yeah.
it's amazing how well she's done with this. And, she stays happy. Bob and I stay happy. I guess that's the Lord giving us peace in the battle. Um, because I think it traumatizes other people more when I tell them my story than it actually does me because I've lived through it. But I know what you're saying there.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it kind of neutralizes I am myself. I do not know how to respond to that. And you know how someone could say, I'm sorry. Well, they're saying they're sorry to have hearing that you're going through that. But the same one who shares their experience will say, what are you sorry for? It wasn't you. It's like, wait a minute. I was just put through the motions of your
Empathy.
trauma. Yeah. And yeah. And that same someone, you know, shunned my empathy by saying, why are you saying sorry, bro? It wasn't you. It's a dynamic, it's a natural, I don't know, it's a natural experience. So again, we have a unique opportunity to take what we have, which is trash, rubbish, based on our experience, and take that as proof and then turn it around, make it shine like a diamond. That's all. So I'm just trying to, you know, encourage anybody to do those things. And without the experience, I am not capable of doing what you're capable of, you and Bob.
So would the offspring service be housed in our militia pillar, or would it be part of
Yeah,
the
definitely
rural?
militia. Yeah, militia. Everything defaults into them. Everything springboards from the assembly militia pillar. Everything, literally everything. Okay. Everybody comes with a heartbeat to their assembly, and they bring that heartbeat and those aspirations and those intentions and those skills and those, you know, yearnings, and they bring them to the assembly militia, either to search for what is there or to offer something that can be added there. And then from there, they go out to the more concrete um, services there where their voice is heard, which is the General Assembly, there to be a part of significance beyond their state assemblies, which is the Executive Assembly, Business Assembly. And as far as justice seeking, providing, contributing to justice, lawful justice, the Assembly drill assembly. But yes, everything community-based is the assembly militia. Your service is, or what you can offer to the offspring emergency services, family services, whatever. And again, even you and Bob can work together and brainstorm and come up with the perfect name for it, you know, and eviscerate child protective services down the memory hole. People won't want to even touch that unless they want to feel nauseated on what these services provided during our times.
Well, I mean, according to Anna, you would have to have some kind of proof of physical harm for our for us to step in and do anything, like by our means. That's one of my big arguments.
If you're seeking remedy for yourself, yes. But if you're offering a contrast, a contrast just for anticipation of your assemblies growing, then they would latch on to that service, and just as a competitive edge, just child protective services just will circle the drain and disappear. But if you're seeking direct remedy for yourself right now, that's a different um, skirmish.
Right. Well, because I'm having to deal with de facto, whereas people in our assembly won't be dealing with all the lies in the de facto. So I reckon ours would be much more peaceful and helpful. And, we have the right heart. Nobody's going to be making money from it. You know what
Completely.
I mean?
Yeah. Yeah, you can provide examples of, you have to kind of use your imagination, but it's probably not too far. I mean, just say somebody is just violent, like absurdly violent, violent against themselves. Usually that's probably the best approach to determine somebody's level of violence, is that their violence against themselves. And that would be someone so inebriated that they're falling down. I mean, that right there is the best way. Or, under the influence so much again that they fall down. That's that, and even CPS will take advantage of that situation. Someone inebriated to the point where they cannot stand up. Usually they'll go into the point where they cannot enunciate words correctly, and then field sobriety tests and these kinds of things where they just kind of work their way in, not just CPS, but you know, patrol officers and those kinds of things too. But let's see where they are. Let's see where even the assemblies or yourself can kind of, where is that pivotal moment where where these, whatever you want to call it, in contrast to CPS, when would somebody consider needing to call somebody to save the little ones? Well, just use, if somebody's under the influence of something to the point, I would say, I would have to say that they can no longer stand up. I mean, that's a really great, just kind of the reason with that. If and everybody likes to have fun, okay? And that's usually when things turn terrible, when someone is, whatever, whether, they're using
Intoxicated.
or whatever. Yeah. But if I'm partying next to someone and now I physically need to help them, there's an issue right there. It just, now I'm have to stop what I have to do just to keep this person upright. Automatically, naturally, that's a problem. It's a hindrance. Well, imagine if I wasn't helping them. They would be falling and falling down, and then, never mind that they slur or they go to sleep for a few minutes and wake up and then they're slurring, but and they're slow. That's just, now you have somebody that's inebriated. Yes. But if little ones are around, you know, why is somebody, inebriating themselves to where they can't function? Or if the little ones are needing help and then blah, 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 that begins to take it right over to the threshold where the Americans could provide a service saying, you know what, if somebody reports somebody is inebriated and phone calls made and no answer, and then I don't know how. Again, I don't have any experience with this, but when does somebody take an anonymous tip where somebody's providing a report and then someone picks up the phone sharply and answers sharply and there's no issue here. Oh well, we got an anonymous tip and we're coming over. That's not reasonable. I would expect our services to pick up somebody, if they pick up the phone and they're blah 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 blah. That's a concern. I can't. What are you saying? I can't. F you. I don't know. Who are you? I don't know. and the baby's in the background crying, those kinds of things. There has to be somewhere where somebody has to intervene. There has to be an intervention point, I would say.
Right.
And again, how is that? How is that? I mean, I don't know what caused your experience to reach the point where it is now. I mean, you can use that as an example of, as proof of your experience. How did these things even initiate from the beginning? The first to the second to the, however many.
It would totally, totally traumatize you if I told you
I'm
all of it.
sure. I'm sure.
And Bob's had to, because mine started with abduction and rape and a Nazi man.
Yeah, but
So
my question would be, as a, as an interest, I would want to know what absurdities were that initiated your experience, and then immediately provide a contrast to that, so that's something I would like, I would be interested in getting behind, supporting, and electing for, already the other trauma stuff, what I can't even hardly fathom. There, I wouldn't vote for that. I would vote for anything but that, but I would want to know in contrast. So what
have you heard any about the biodigital convergence?
mhm.
No.
Just in passing, certain aspects of it, yeah, but nothing substantial.
Well, basically, DARPA and the FBI and the CIA, they're all trying to digitize our whole planet now.
Right,
So they're using graphene oxide, and that's in our healthcare. The cops know about it. It's a technology being used against humans that is disgusting.
right,
That's where my story comes in.
right. And if you have that perspective as well, I mean, that's a dynamic interest. That's a concern for sure. Now, is that something that your services could provide? No, but it's something that your assembly militia that could be that can be privy to in your research, and you can hand that research off. That's how I would share, diversify my concerns. And again, the assembly militia is so diverse, and its potentiality is just, from one spectrum to the other. But not to overwhelm yourself or the assembly militia. Hand off your research to those who may be able to facilitate and take that burden off of you, and just focus on what is imminent for you for remedy to have your family mended, and take those other burdens off of you, which kind of obscures your objective or what you seem to want to offer to the assembly, which is a better offspring protective service. I'm really eager to hear what you guys come up with. Let that be your platform. Let's take CPS, get rid of the acronyms, let's lay them side by side, and let's just beautify CPS. No more CPS. Let's offspring, whatever, 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 you know, and then way by the CPS. They're not going to have a chance, at least as far as Kentucky's. Use us as your prospects, because if funds were available and plentiful, this is something that would just envision this. If $2 or $3 million were available to take and craft your ideas in lieu of CPS, and people are voting for it, it's just a matter of signing off on your ideas, and those funds would be allocated to providing services, advertising for those services, equipment needed for those services, you know, and on and on. That's
Well,
as
it could
that's as
potentially
close.
be outreach too. The people
That
that are in
that's as close.
CPS and their citizens,
Yeah,
they'd want to come to us and get a proper service.
yeah. That's as close as we are to affecting change. But if we kind of fall into that rut that we're most familiar and are comfortable with, that as kind of a appeal, mayday, help, 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 that's not going to go anywhere. We need to provide that change, even if it's in an abstract. Provide that change and wait, garner that support. that enough, that in and of itself is going to get attention from people within the assemblies and those prospective people, on the fringes looking in from the outside looking in. That's my best opinion and the best advice. Anything
But
short of that, I would not be. I would fail in interest because you know, that's I'm giving you my of interest right there.
well, I just wonder how we would do certain things because, they take DNA for tests. They take hair follicle, they take urine. Like, how would we protect a child who has meth head parents if we couldn't do those testing? And I notice on Anna's fee schedule, there are, you know, um, fees for hair follicle test and different DNA tests. So I think that would
Yeah.
limit us on some of it if we couldn't do medical testing, if that makes sense.
Well, just like I say, try to imagine having Laura and Bob as a family who's experienced this and has ran through the ringer. No one has a more vested interest in perfecting this service than you. Okay. So imagine $2 million being offered to you and 3 years to utilize that amount of funds. Just imagine that. Okay. You don't have it, but imagine what you would need to provide to substantiate the cost of those and over that period. You give yourself benchmarks and just try to have fun with that, just short of actually having the funds. Okay, no, there's no actuators here. There are no yet no numbers to place these things into action. But it's not far-fetched to envision that is part of a business proposal, is providing those perspectives, It's part of a business proposal, those trajectories, those growth trends. I couldn't tell you that. I don't know. I have zero experience with CPS. Zero. Less than zero. I hardly know people personally that have ever even experienced that, you know. So to hear stories, it's just very overwhelming. But I do empathize, and I would definitely desire to have CPS go away because I have heard and watched videos from people from afar, and it is the most heartbreaking stories I've ever heard. Even worse than murder stories, because there's nothing worse to have our young ones victimized by a service that is siphoning their energy and taking away from their family. So,
Bob said we probably could do those tests. He doesn't want to talk because we have an echo when he talks. What were you
yeah,
saying?
guys.
No, I was saying that um, we could still probably do tests such as drug tests and stuff like that, but we would actually have to have a reliable reason to do it and have some evidence or proof to have to do it, not just if somebody says, well, they're doing meth. That's not proof. No, there would have to be some kind of actions that would actually allow us to document something that needed to be done, but they just go on hearsay. And that's something you can't do. You've got to have proof when you're messing with people's lives.
Well, even proof, I would even go so far as to say the proof would be in the fact that these little ones are harmed through the neglect. And some would say, well, who are we to say wait until somebody gets harmed? What can we do? Anything less than that is, what do they call that? What's that movie? Pre-crime, I know they're doing meth. They're doing it right now. And there's 4 little ones. 2 of them are in a crib right now. I know they're doing it. I saw them do it 10 minutes ago. Okay. And we're at that moment now where, okay, you swear up and down, they swear up and down, they saw their neighbor doing that stuff 10 minutes ago. Okay. And there's 4 little ones in that house as we speak. Okay. Unfortunately, in order to preserve privacy, we have to enter the realm of, We're just there. We're at that moment, right there. None of this other stuff, pre-crime prevention, you know, and this, I mean, that's where we're at now, where people taking that idea to the hilt and ran with it to the point where they'll even accept anonymous calls from somebody and then shield that anonymous call from who it is, and then storm somebody's house. Nobody done anything, nothing of the sort. Regardless, we got a tip, and here we are coming through. We're blazing, we're taking everything, halting your life. Our tip, anonymous tip. Well, that's not absurd. Well, we got a tip. You know, that's where we're at because of not allowing the moment of the point of no return to play out. You know, I mean, I don't know. I don't. You guys can go with that. I would have to say, because given the circumstance of exploiting anonymous tips that are, and you know, no repercussions if it's false, if it turns out to be false, you know, nobody who is of the offended has any recourse as to who called or if anybody called at all. You know, that's another further exploit. How do we know somebody called the authorities? They can be the authorities themselves could be fabricating a call. You know, oh, how convenient you don't reveal your anonymous tips, and you're storming my house. I don't have any of those. Never done those drugs at all. Period. And no matter if I did or not, you know, and no matter if I'm high on that stuff or not, no action, no violence no accidents has taken place. At this very moment you storm, nothing has happened. You know, that could be the turning point where the assemblies, yeah, you know what, self-governing comes even to that point. And then if something does happen, but if something does, I should say, if something does happen, and those little ones, any one of those four are hurt, and that one is found to the point where they're under, I mean, I don't care what it is, that stuff or many other stuff, you know, and then the authorities come in after the fact and they find out, now drug test, now you're talking about, they find out, oh, this one's hurt, or these two, or all of them are hurt. You are found to be under this. You're in trouble. You guys are, you're going to face your peers for this because evidence has found that you were inebriated and now these little ones have been or hurt during that time. It's as simple as that, in my view. Nothing else, nothing short of that, nothing less than that, or nothing more than that, I should say.
Well, I actually took custody way back 20 years ago of one of my boyfriend's sister's kids. And she lived behind Deja Vu and was strung out on the meth pretty bad. And so that's why I took custody, because he wasn't going to school. And I guess she was okay when she was doing it. But she would be up for days and then she would sleep for days. So then her kids right behind in the alley behind Deja Vu, you know, are out playing in the alley. And I mean, I can't say the woman hurt the kids, but then again, they were unattended for, you know, 14, 16 hours at a time while she was trying to catch up on sleep. And so, I mean, the oldest one had to take care of the baby. You know, it was just that kind of scenario. And what's so sad about it is that kid I had custody of OD'd on fentanyl on October 2nd of 2022. And he was only 33. And so, you know, you see how the drug life didn't help him. You know what I mean? I mean, he just grew up and went straight into it. And so that's like a deep concern of mine, especially living in Louisville. We got 3 meth houses that got tore down behind our house. I mean, it just seems to be everywhere. And I don't know, these people think that they're Superman on it or something and they can do more and it makes them better, but then they crash out like they're dead for days. I
Well,
just, I don't know.
like I say, it would, for me, if my neighbor or me or anybody I knew, my family, if they were found under that influence, if they pass away, that's on them. But if they have little ones who are hurt while they're in that state after the fact, and it's been proven, then things have to take place. Nothing before or even during. The during portion is where that moment, pivotal moment, takes place. After the fact, self-governing is taking on responsibility, taking the ownership, full ownership and responsibility of what takes place as a repercussions for those actions. You know? none of this other stuff even matters. And I'm totally detached from that. I do empathize, and my heart goes out to those who have endured the nanny state, or even people's ideas about something needs to be done. Yeah, something needs to be done. Intervention, catching these people when they're sober and offering them something, not scolding them. That's a lot of the people out there in the alternative media. They spin a good, narrative, or they spin a good argument, and they're always eager to point the fingers at others, and that's all. That has its limitations as well. But even at the end of every single segment they offer, there is no alternative. They even resorted to calling people and belittling people. Wake up, you sleeping sheeple. And they never offer anything, and they're not. And these same people are not even intelligent enough to seek the remedy themselves and promote that. Instead, they've resorted to calling people names and thinking that they're better than others when they don't even have the remedy to offer. So meeting somebody on their porch after they're hungover with nothing to offer them, nothing that they can actually stand up and walk towards and engage with, then I I don't know what to. I wouldn't even engage in them. Maybe offer somebody something to drink or something to eat and ask them if they're all right and help them carry them through their day. But if I didn't have anything to offer them, something that they can do, then I wouldn't even, beyond offering them something to eat or drink. I don't know what I could do.
Well, I kind of have a feeling Anna might say it's their body. They can
Yeah.
treat it like they want to.
Right. That's right. Yeah. And yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. Short of having dependents in the home, then of course that is not even an issue. Then it only becomes an issue if that single man or woman gets up and thinks to become froggy and violent or destructive against their neighbors. So the question comes back to what you guys have dealt with, is having your little ones taken away. I gotta go, guys. I'm 17 minutes past another meeting, so
Okay. Thank
I
you
hope
for
I
your
was able.
time.
I hope I was able to help something, and look forward to the next GA
You
meeting.
were.
Email me what
Remedy
you
for
have there, Lauren.
CPS. Okay,
Yeah.
will do.
Okay. Bye.
All right. Thanks, man.